Hello again. We are now on lesson 2.5, writing equations in slope-intercept form. So remember, slope-intercept form is the y equals mx plus b form, where you have the slope and the y-intercept that is given to you. So some steps to do that. Number one, find the slope using rise over run. So you're going to be given this graph. You're going to find the rise over run between one point and another, and that's the m in y equals mx plus b. Next, just look at where the graph crosses the y-axis, and that's your b. It really is that easy. So take a look at letter A. We have this nice little graph here, and what we want to do is look at this graph and write an equation in slope-intercept form. So it says step 1, identify the slope. So from one point to the next, and again, it doesn't matter which 2 points you pick, or if you go up or if you go down, it'll all simplify to the same thing. So if I go from here to here, I have to go up 1, 2, 3, and left 2. That means 3 over negative 2 if I look at it that way. I could have went from here to here, then I would go down 3 and right 2, which would have meant negative 3 over a positive 2. Either way, my m is negative 3 halves. So I'm going to write y equals negative 3 halves x. I'm writing that next to x because that's where the slope goes. And step 2, I'm supposed to find where this graph crosses the y-axis. There it is, right there. And it looks like that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the y-axis. So I'm going to write plus 5. The end. I know, not too bad. All right, let's try B. Again, we're going to try to find the slope from point to point for step 1. So from here to here, I would go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I go right 1, 2, 3. I could go from here to here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. I could go up 10 and right 6 if I want, but no matter what I do, it's going to be 5/3. It's okay to leave it as an improper fraction as long as it's kind of like a simplified improper fraction. So I'm going to write my slope next to the x, and then we need to identify the b, which is right here. It's at negative 3. So I can write 5/3 x minus 3. If you want to write plus negative 3, you may, that's fine. I'm going to leave mine as minus 3. Okay, check out C. Okay, let's find the slope first. So from any point to the next, I can go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and right 2, which means it's 3. Remember, if it simplifies to a whole number, you don't have to leave it as a fraction, write it as a whole number. I could also go up 6, right 2 here. I could go up 12, right 4. No matter what I do, my slope is 3. So I'm going to write y equals 3x. And now, there's my y-intercept. It's at 0. So would it make sense to write plus 0 after anything? No. Would you ever go to the bank and say, I'd like to make a deposit of $0? No. Don't try that. They look at you very awkwardly, and it's a quiet, awkward moment. Not that I've tried or anything. Last one of this kind. Let's find the slope from point to point. This time I'm going to go from here to here. Why not? We go down 1, 2, 3. That makes it a negative 3. And I'd go right 1, 2, 3, 4. If you would have went up 3, left 4, no matter what you do, you'd still have negative 3/4. So y equals negative 3/4 x, because the slope gets the x. And my y-intercept is at negative 2. So I'm going to write minus 2. Again, if you want to write plus negative 2, that's totally fine. So basically, to write an equation from a graph, find the slope of the line using rise over run, write it in simplest form, put it next to the x, and find your b. Find where the graph crosses the y-axis, and list that value as your b, as the constant. So now it's time for a story. Always the story. So application time, in other words. This graph shows the distance remaining to complete a tunnel. So we're digging a tunnel here. Letter A says, write an equation that represents the distance y in feet remaining after x months. So I know that y represents distance and x represents months. We're also going to answer how much time it takes to complete the tunnel. And again, the graph that we're referring to is this one here that you can see on your paper. So I'm going to scooch mine back up. So it says to write an equation. And you see this? It's a line, right? So I know I'm going to have a linear equation, and linear equations can be written in the form of y equals mx plus b. So y equals mx plus b. I want to find the slope, right? When you look at this, if you go up 1, 2, 3, 4 and left 1, 2, 3, 4, you would think that the slope was negative 4 over 4 or negative 1. But notice over here, I'm not counting by 1. So it'd be kind of difficult to use that traditional rise over run method to find the slope of this graph. When you see something like this where I'm actually counting by 500, you could count up by 500s if you want, and that would be fine. But I'm going to go back and use my x1 minus y, or sorry, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to find the slope. That would be a good idea. So let's see. I'm going to underline my x's. I'm going to circle my y's. And we can call this the first ordered pair and the second ordered pair. It's not going to make a difference, actually. We probably had that discussion in class, I'm guessing. So y2 I can call 1500 minus y1, which I would call 3500, which again are the circle points on these graphs. I'm going to put that over the change in x, which I just started with this one, so I need to start with this one again, right? So if I start with 1500, I'm going to start with a 4, and I'm going to take away 0 from that. Okay, so when you take 1500 minus 3500, what you get is a negative 2000. And 4 minus 0 is 4. It's definitely not in simplest form, but I know it's going to come out to a whole number. All right, so 4 goes into 20, 5 times into 0, and a negative divided by positive is a negative. So I get negative 500 for my slope. So y equals negative 500x plus, now looking at this graph, I can see what the y-intercept is. This is the y-axis. This is where it crosses. I can see 0, 3500. So I'm going to write plus 3500. Now, maybe you're thrown off by the whole negative 500, but keep in mind, this graph is decreasing. It's a negative slope. It should be negative. And if you look, here's 3500. 3000 is down by 500, down by 500, down by 500, down by 500, and that's what a negative 500x, that's what that means. Okay, letter B asks how much time does it take to complete the tunnel? So you have to figure out, well, what does that mean, completing the tunnel? Well, that's going to mean that your distance is 0. Because if we start at 3500, I want to keep digging all the way until that distance is 0. And looking at the graph, you can kind of tell, hey, when y is 0, x is 7. That's a really simple way to answer this problem using the graph. We could say 7 months, because x is given in months. Now, if you weren't exactly sure, or is it exactly 7, I don't know, what you could do is use your equation here, plug 0 in for y, because basically the answer to this problem happens when y is 0. So when 0 equals negative 500x plus 3500, I want to know what x is. So you can subtract your 3500 or add a negative, and you get negative 3500 equals negative 500x. You're going to divide by negative 500, and let's get rid of some of those zeros. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 35 divided by 5 is 7, so we still get the 7 months. So you can use a graph, you can plug it in if you're not sure from the graph or if it doesn't show it. But basically, I want you to have an understanding of what x represents and what y represents. Knowing that this happens when y is 0 is the key to answering that problem. And we will do some more of these in class tomorrow. I'll see you then.